الفاتحة. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وبارك وسلم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. صدق الله العظيم. والله العظيم. آمين آمين يا ربي. Welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. As you may know, this is the first in a series. The sunnah is that if a person comes after the circle is filled, they sit in the second row. Okay. Okay. We'll get this sunnah at some point, maybe October or something. So anyway, let's see. We wanted to start. So I hope that you all know that you're here for a class on Islamic Sufism, and that it's going to be held the second Monday of every month. So it's once a month. It's not on Tuesday, and it's not weekly. So I just want to make sure everybody knew that, so you don't show up next week. If you do, just get some chocolate from the office, and everything will be okay. So I have my reasons for doing this class, which I will tell you. But whenever I do this, whenever I teach a class, I'm always also interested in why people are here, so that I can hopefully at some point try and meet their expectations with it, if it fits in with the theme of the class. So I'd like to go around to each of you, and for you to give me your name, and just, if you can, just a short idea of what you hope to get out of this class.
My name is Melissa, and I spend time in the Middle East, and I just wanted to learn more about Islam, even if it is Sufi Islam. There must be some similarities.
Yes.
My name is Asmani, and the reason for coming here is to know about Islam, and especially at Abode.
Yes.
My name is Andy, and I'm interested in this topic because I feel that there's certain aspects of the sort of tradition that we focus on in Sufism, but Sufism is a lot broader. So, and having sat in your classes before, I know you bring in some very interesting, thoughtful materials. So I'm just looking to see some other aspects.
I'm Fatiha, and I'm here to learn about Islam, and because Imam Salim is such a good teacher.
Okay, no more of that.
Carrie or Karina. I'm here because since I've been at the Abode for the last several years, I've heard a lot of contradictory conversations about the connection between Islam and Sufism. You know, the conversations contradict each other, and I want more clarity about, and I'm not sure, maybe that's not what, I thought the class was going to be at Islam and as it relates to Sufism. Maybe I didn't get that right, but I'm I just want to understand better, because I've heard all these little bits and pieces of conversations, and I don't know what is really accurate, and also, because Mondays, I don't have kids, so I actually can come to class.
I'm here because I always enjoy learning about different points of view of looking at the divine, and I'm very open to learning more about the relationship between Sufism and Islam, and I've enjoyed the classes in the past.
I'm here because
I don't think everyone knows your name.
Nakiba, my name is Nakiba, and I've been
You
to.
can take a couple of back jacks and sit outside the circle. Thanks. Go
I've
ahead,
been to
Nikki.
a couple of your classes, a couple of classes by Imam Bilal Hyde, and they've stayed with me for many years, and I'm interested in experiencing more.
I'm Khalil, and I'm interested in learning more about Islam. That's why I'm here, and I take the opportunity, especially when your classes are being held, to experience that.
Thank you. So what we're doing is we're going around saying our names and also what our hopes are of why are we coming to this class and what we hope to get from it. So you're next.
I'm Alyssa, and I hope to learn more about all this. I'm new, so I don't know much, but I feel drawn to it. I hope to learn more.
My name is David, and I would like to know more about Islam. I know a little bit, and I know there's a lot of different perspectives, and I'm always interested to learn more.
Excellent. Good. Well, I can safely say that this series of classes is going to meet everybody's expectations here, I hope. Or at least that's my intention. It may not happen today. It may not happen next month either, because for David and Alyssa, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Before you came in, I made sure everybody realized that this is a once a month class, the second Monday of each month. So it may not happen today. It may not happen next month. Maybe it'll happen the month after that. You never know, but we'll get to it eventually. Let me just say something because of what Nakiba said. Imam Bilal Hyde also is a person that I learned from for many, many years, is going to be coming back to the Abode after being away for 10 years, I guess, or something like that, for Labor Day with Wali Ali to do a program on the physician of the heart. So I hope you're all here and you can all come to that because each one individually is already a powerhouse. But together, who knows? The world could explode. So I highly recommend that. But it's on Labor Day, so you have plenty of time to fiddle with it in your heads. Okay, so the name of this class series is Islam from the Heart. Okay? And the reason that I called it that, well, there's more than one reason. But the main reason that I called this series Islam from the Heart is because of a saying of, now I'm going to forget who it was, but maybe it doesn't matter, of someone in the medieval days of the world, in the Middle East, who said that, it was Hujwiri. Does everybody know who Hujwiri is?
I know the name.
Yeah. he wrote one of the earliest and still to this day one of the best manuals for Sufi teachers to teach murids from. He said, Hujwiri, who is buried in Lahore in Pakistan, he said, Islam without Sufism has no heart. And Sufism without Islam is heresy. Okay? So some of you who have gone to some of my other classes in the past have heard this before, and I'm just going to give a really short explanation of what he meant. Okay? What he meant was that, let's say you are walking along a road, okay, and you have a map about the road, okay? So you can follow the road because you have the map, all right? But the map doesn't really tell you everything about what's on that road, okay? All the map really tells you is that point A is here, point B is here, and the road connects the two. So if you hold the map, first of all, you have to hold the map in the right direction, okay? So you need some kind of a north arrow to tell you which way to hold the map. And then all the map tells you is if you keep walking, you will end up at point B. That's all it does. It's very good at that. It's a very good map. If you believe it and you keep walking in that direction, you will eventually get to point B. Great. Okay. Oh, and let's not forget the north arrow because that plays a part in this as well. Okay. Well, why are you walking to point B? Does anybody have any idea? We're all just like hanging out, with a map, whether you want to call it the Bhagavad Gita or the Quran or the Bible or any one of a number of words that name a scripture. They're all very good maps. They'll all get you to point B. Unless you have some kind of insight, you don't know why you're going to point B. Now there's all kinds of levels of insight also. There's, just like a little bit of insight which makes you think that, well, since all these people were really, intent on teaching me how to walk on this road, then I'll have that much insight. So I know there is a reason, but I still don't know what the reason is. This is Islam without a heart. Okay? This is simply going through the motions. And we'll learn all the motions, but we'll learn more. We'll learn about the intentions behind the motions. We'll learn about the heart. That's why I called it Islam from the heart. Because we're not just going to walk a road and kick pebbles and not know why those pebbles were there and not know really how to walk. I mean, there's all kinds of ways of walking too. Has anybody taken any of Wally Ali's walking zikkers at all? Yeah, some of you have. How do you walk? There's 100 gazillion ways to walk. They all have a different kind of meaning. They all have a different kind of attunement. They all have a different intention. So when we walk our walk, we can just stroll, sure. And there's nothing wrong with that, okay? Some people have retranslated Hujwiri's statement into saying that Islam without Sufism is ostentation, okay? So what do we mean when we're ostentatious? We go about things in our extremely proud, dedicated life, which there's nothing wrong with, but there's no heart involved. Okay. So now let's look at it from the other side. of that statement, the second half of the statement. What did he mean? Sufism without Islam is heresy. Well, first of all, what's the word heresy in Islam, right? He used the word kufr. So all you Islamic scholars out there, do you remember what the root of kufr is? Kafara? Kafara? There's a similar word in Hebrew. Yeah, but I mean, kafra is not the word in Hebrew. It's just similar. It's probably khafra or something like that. Khafr? Nothing? No. Okay, I got it wrong. Anyway, what it means is it means to cover up. Okay. So it comes from an agricultural term, okay, which the farmers are doing right now. Well, maybe not right now, but you know, in the daytime when they're working. It means that when you make a furrow to plant seeds, and you put the seeds in the furrow, you cover them up with the soil. Okay, that's what the root word that they've that means kafir. You know, you've heard that term probably, which they keep translating as you know, those people that are not part of your religion. Let's put it that way. What it really means is it means to cover up. Okay? So what Ujwiri was saying is that if we practice the practices of Sufism without understanding the Islamic basis, we're covering up the truth. Okay? So Sufism that covers up the truth is what he's saying is heresy. Okay? How does Sufism cover up the truth? Well, let's go back to the road. Okay? On this road, you're going to meet several people. You're going to come in contact with an inn along the way somewhere. You're going to come to a crossroads. You're going to see, you know, a beautiful bird flying off that way, and all this kind of stuff. Okay? We can get caught up in these kinds of distractions if we're not grounded. Okay? So what Hujwiri is reminding us is that on the one hand, we have to remember that our heart is what's leading us and where our intention comes from. And we'll get into that in coming months. And at the same time, if we also don't have a grounded way of walking on this path, that we can be diverted by all kinds of distractions. People, opportunities in life that we see one way or another that don't really match up with our intentions and things like that. Okay? So this is where the title of this class series comes from. And I've been using it for many years for a number of things. I've been using it for it's the name of my blog. It's the name of a ongoing struggle that I'm having with myself to write a book, and so I've been using it for quite a while. And this is the first kind of fruit, you might say, where this class is coming from in terms of that title. So my intention for this class really is to give you the heart that is present in Islam, and to do it in a way that would make Hujwiri happy. All right? We all want to make him happy. He's got a great dargah. You should go visit it sometimes if you feel like going to Pakistan. It's in Lahore. Go during the Urs. It's just amazing. Anyway, so he's not in our lineage, but he was a great Sufi teacher. And Moinuddin Chishti, whose Urs just happened at the end of last week, when he came to the Indian subcontinent, he came down from Chisht in Afghanistan, and he came down through what is now Pakistan, through the city Ajhodan, which is now Lahore, and Hujwiri was already dead and gone by that time. But there's a shrine in his little dargah there to Muinuddin Chishti, because when Muinuddin Chishti passed through there, he stayed there for 40 days and did a retreat in the dargah. So they built a little shrine for him there after he left. He went to Delhi after that, and then went to Ajmer, where his dargah is now. That's Muinuddin Chishti. So anyway, to make a long story short, which is very difficult for me, the first thing that we're going to do is talk about the groundedness. Because the other thing that people have said, many sheikhs over the years have said that you have to start with this grounded feeling, okay? The grounded feeling which shows you how to walk on the path and to get from point A to point B. And before you can do anything else, you have to learn all of the form, unfortunately. So the form is very important in this, and we need to learn about it, even though I'm going to spice it up a little bit. We'll have sohbet and we'll have some zikr and all that, so it doesn't become completely dry, because Imam Bilal says that you shouldn't take the fun out of fundamentalism. So anyway, so where does the path lead? Okay, so this is going to probably make people very interested, or it's going to totally alienate you. Okay, so I'll tell you where the path leads. I'm not going to keep you in suspense. The path leads to the well. Okay, the well is in the village, and everybody has to go to the well to get water. Okay, when you walk on this path, you're walking. I mean, the path's only this wide. You know, please. There's jungle on either side of it, or desert, or whatever it is, wherever you are. Or if you're an Eskimo, there's snow everywhere. Okay? You have to walk on the path. Now, you're walking to the path to get to the well to get water, and lo and behold, there's also people walking back because they already got their water. Okay? And because they don't want to have to go too many times, you know, or send their kids who are just going to whine about going to get the water too many times, they have the jugs that they carry this water in are big. Okay? Imam Salim, what has this got to do with what we're talking about? Anyway, so the path is this big, right? You're about this big. The other person's about this big. The jug is really big and heavy, okay? And you come and you meet this person along the path, coming up from the well. You're going down to the well. Your jug is light, okay? What are the rules? What are the rules about when you meet a person coming up on the path? Okay, it's a path. You have to have rules so that people can, you know, like red lights, green lights, all that kind of stuff. It's traffic, maybe foot traffic, but it's traffic. You need to know. What do you think that's called? The word for a shining path through the forest that needs to be negotiated to the well. What do you think the word for that is?
A dog?
Well, that comes later, but that's right, but it's not the one I'm looking for. I'm telling you, it's gonna surprise people. The word is Sharia. Okay? That's the origins of everything that the West hates so much now. It has to do, the word for the shining path is Sharia. Every religion has one. Okay? There's a Sharia in Christianity, there's a Sharia in Judaism, there's a Sharia in Buddhism, in Hinduism, in whatever the Eskimos do. They all have certain ground rules about how you behave in life. Okay? So, where does it come from? Well, in all religions, there's different places where it comes from. In Islam, it comes from, like I said, that word, but it's an organic growth of how people need to behave with each other, and it eventually becomes adab, but not until they have dinner parties. We'll talk about adab in a while. It also comes from the Quran, where there's a statement in the Quran that says you should treat your neighbor this way, or you should treat your business person that way, or you should treat your children this way, or your spouse, or whatever. That's part of it. The other part of it is what's called sunnah, which I mentioned earlier. Sunnah is the sayings and the customs of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, which have been collected down the ages and are codified in certain books. So when he said, for instance, pick a good one. Excuse me. How to pray, because that's the first thing we're going to talk about anyway. There is tons. I could fill this room with all of the different hadith. Hadith are the little sayings that make up the collection. You could fill this room with all the hadith that have to do about prayer. Okay, and this hadith says that you're supposed to stand this way, and this hadith says that you're supposed to stand that way, and this hadith talks about where your hands are supposed to be, and this hadith talks about which verses of the Quran you're supposed to recite, and all of that. So that is all codified in this these collections of hadith, which make up what we call sunnah. All right. So when somebody asks me, well, why do you bow down twice when you pray salat in Islam? The answer is because it's sunnah. Okay? Some things we know the reasons for, and some things we don't. When we talk about prayer more exactly, I'll go into that. There is another reason for that, but that's the reason. When we say, why do we say the Fatiha and then read another verse? It's because that's the way it has been described by people contemporarily who prayed with the Prophet Muhammad, and they said, okay, this is what he did. And our job, one of our jobs in life as Muslims, is to emulate him. I'm going to talk about him today in some ways, because I'm talking about his biography. So we are beholden, or we are delighted to emulate this person who we consider to be the exemplar for our lives. We'll get into that in a minute. So this really is what Sharia. Yeah, it's the other part of it is that there has to be an agreement amongst a majority of people in order to make something a custom that you have to follow. All right. So I'll give you a for instance for that. Ramadan, which is coming up, is a time when you do a lot of extra prayer, and you read the Quran, and you do different kinds of extra worshipful modes of being and things like that. One of which is a prayer at night called Taraweeh. Okay? Well, Taraweeh is one of those things where we don't have clear examples. We have an example that one of which says, well, okay, he prayed it 8 times every night. And another example that says he prayed it 12 times every night. And another example which said he prayed it 20 times every night, and then 3 more, which is called witr, which means to make odd. Okay? So you have to agree amongst your cohorts, let's say, which of those you're going to follow. Because all 3 of those examples are authentic hadith, which have been proven through the chain of reciters that they are all authentic. So we can't say to a person who says, well, I'm only praying 8 rakats. We can't tell them that they're wrong because we pray 20 plus 3. Okay? It's actually 8 plus 3. So you have to have a consensus among the people who you are with, that they'll do it a certain way. Imams get fired all the time because they want to do it in a way that the congregation doesn't want them to do it. Of course, that never happens in any other religion, right? You never, clergy never get fired ever. From, whoever fired the Dalai Lama, you can't do it. He's the Dalai Lama. Anyway, so this is where this kind of codification comes from. This is different. This kind of Sharia is different than when governments take over. And I'm not going to get too political in this class, but I will say this. This is not the same thing as when governments take over and twist things around to meet their own cultural purposes. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about authentic sunnah. Okay, so where does all this come from? Oh boy. We're starting out this class talking about the beginnings of the religion that we now call Islam. Okay? Why is it called Islam? Does anybody know why it's called Islam, by the way? In his final sermon at Mount Ararat, the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said a hadith Qudsi, which means a spiritual hadith, which is supposedly something that God said to him. Okay? And in this, one of the lines in this Qudsi hadith is, I have now perfected your religion for you, and it is Islam. Okay? So it became known as Islam. What does Islam mean? Well, it comes from the root salama, which means to make which means to make something whole. Okay? There's all kinds of offshoots of that, though. In Arabic, you've got different forms of the word, like my name, Salim, which means one who practices salam. And you've got Muslim, which means a one who is Islamic. And you have all kinds of other forms of this. But this when you add this beginning prefix "eh" to a word, most of the time in Arabic, you're going to make something into a like a noun that's also a verb. So does that make sense to anybody? A noun that's also a verb. You know, like I'm going to go railroad somebody. Railroad. Oh, that's a good one. I'm going to go railroad somebody. Okay. So railroad can be a noun and a verb at the same time. And what it means in this case is to surrender. Okay? Is that surrendering is both a noun and a verb. That when I say that, I know it's a little weird for people because surrender is not a noun in English. Okay? But it is in Arabic. And so it is both the thing of surrender, it's the thing that we would call surrender, and at the same time it is the act of surrendering. Okay? But it's not just any old kind of surrendering. It's not like, King whoever waving the white flag for another king and, all of a sudden the other king gets to take all the swords from them and tell them to go home. That's not the kind of surrender we're talking about. This is a surrender to God. This means that I have given my life, I have now dedicated my life to the worship of God. Okay? And because of that, I want to, it's like, well, let's get into the Sufi term, beloved. Okay? The Sufis call the divine the beloved. Okay? So, the beloved our beloved may want things from us. Okay? I know mine does. So we all have experienced this, right? Even if it is just like our parents or our brother or sister. I mean the brother or sister in a family. They all, want something from us. And we love them, so we want to do what they want from us. Okay? If they want a BMW, they probably shouldn't ask me. But anyway. So when we have a relationship with a beloved, part of what we are dedicated to do is to satisfy the desires of that beloved. And if that beloved is God and has given us very clear directions on this map, right? Remember the north arrow? That's our direction. That's our direction finder, so to speak. That is the divine giving us a way to orient ourselves on that map so that we can walk in the way that God asks us to. Okay? That's surrender. That's Islam. When we see the words in the book, they are like a map to us. When I used to be the imam for the congregation in Pittsfield at the Berkshire Medical Center, I used to tell people, and I'll tell you this now, even though you probably don't have the same kind of interest in it that they did at the time, but maybe you will. I used to tell them, don't read the Quran as if it was written 1,400 years ago in some vacuum. Well, it was written, by a lot of people, but anyway, you should be reading the Quran as if it is a letter to you right now. Okay? So that when you read it, you should be using a relationship of me and you for you and God. And God is writing you a letter called the Quran, which tells you everything you need to know about how God wants you to behave. Okay? So, that is why. Because we want to so much, we love the divine so much that we want to do what is asked of us, because it's out of love. It's not out of, they use the word in Arabic is taqwa, which they usually translate as fear. You have to have taqwa, Allah, fear of Allah. Well, that's totally wrong. And that's why we can say Islam without Sufism is ostentation, or Islam without Sufism has no heart. Because taqwa doesn't mean fear. Taqwa means all-encompassing awe and love. That's what it means. If you have taqwa Allah, of course you're gonna behave because you're totally in love with God. Okay. Now, that's my speech about the beginning of Islam. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to read this. Can you turn on? You know what, Nakiba, the light, the switch that turns these lights on back here, leave the slider all the way down and just turn the switch on. Okay? Thank you. There you go. Thank you. Perfect. Okay. So who's this? This is a biography of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, which I didn't know existed until about 2 weeks ago. And as you can see, I like those little sticky tabs. They're great. I love them. The saying goes that it's another hadith Qudsi, which says, if not for you, Muhammad, I would not have created the universe. Now, what does that mean? This is the Sufi part of it. It's the Nur-i Muhammadi, which, does everyone know what Nur means? Not everybody. Nur is the uncreated light. Nur is not the light that Nakiba just turned on, incandescent lights that we can make. Nur is the light that inspires our inner deepest, most being with knowledge. Okay? Suleiman Sohrawardi, who predates our lineage, started a tradition called the Ishraqi tradition, which means the light or the fire tradition. And what he said was, he said that the uncreated light, the nur of the universe, is a light which we can see, and which, instead of illuminating objects around the room, like this light does, it illuminates knowledge. Okay? So this light that we're seeing here is but a kind of a shadow of that kind of light. That kind of light, we can actually see the light itself. If you try and look at a beam of regular created light, okay, you won't see it. You'll see the object that it bounces off of. You'll see any little dust motes that are in the air, which there always are, but you won't see the actual light itself. The nur you will see. The uncreated light of the universe you will see. This is akin to the same kind of light as we talk about in the chakras above our head, where there's the pure white light. You actually can see the light itself. And what it illuminates is knowledge. Okay? Well, the Nur-e Muhammadi, in many hadiths and traditions in Islam, is what makes the lineage of prophets possible. Okay? And the way it's put in the Quran and in Islamic tradition is that this light was created before anything else was created. Okay? That this was the initiation of creation, you might say. And that this light inspired the divine to create the whole rest of the universe. Okay? And it's all an act of love. It's the creation of the Nur, the creation of the universe, the creation of the lineage of prophets, all came from an act of love that the divine wanted to be known. Okay? And for the creation to be a partner in all of this love that is an interchange between us and the divine, God, Allah. So the Nur-e Muhammadi is this light, and it exists in the light of every prophet that lives throughout the entire ages, right up to the point where it finally gets to the Prophet Muhammad, and that's the Khatam al-Nabi, that is the seal of the prophets. Okay? And it is said that, for instance, this light exists and it gets passed from one to the other. There's a story about the prophet's father, peace and blessings be upon him, who was going with his father to get married. Okay, so they were going to his wedding, and they were going along a street, and as they went along the street, there was a woman standing in the doorway, who, the way it is said, was that she could see the light in his father's face, that the light was there, and this became so attractive to her that she actually stopped the two of them in the middle of the street and offered to marry him right on the spot. Okay, because she was wise and she knew that this was the light of prophethood. But he said, no, I have to go with my father, and he went and he met Amina, who was Muhammad's mother, and they got married. And after they got married and they had spent their week together or whatever, he was walking down the same street, and the same woman passed him and looked at him and said, no, now the light's gone. The light was now with the newly conceived Prophet Muhammad in the womb of Amina, and people would see her in this kind of light with a very special countenance of her. So this light gets passed down. Even Adam, there's a story of God talking to Adam about about this whole thing, and Adam says, well, why something, I mean, I'm paraphrasing the story, okay? Something akin to, well, why bother with me and all the other prophets, if you know you're going to end up with Muhammad anyway. And Muhammad, and this is where this verse comes from in the Quran, which says that which says that they have created many different peoples at many different times and given the scriptures in the language and the understanding of those people at those times. In other words, the people who, there weren't that many, what were there, 3 or 4 at first with Adam, they weren't ready to take in the kind of message that Muhammad was going to be given. They ended up populating a lot more and all of that, but even after that, you go through all of the prophets, through that lineage, even down to Abraham, okay, where the revelations of Abraham and the kind of revelations that he was able to pass on to Ishmael and Isaac were not the same kind of revelation that the people who lived in Arabia during the time of Muhammad would have understood. So, according to each of these steps, where the Nuri Muhammadi was transmitted from time to time, from place to place, from person to person, was done in order that the people of that time would be able to understand what was being given to them. And to, as Prophet Isa said, not to bring a new law, but to clarify some of the old ones, okay? So that we were given these different clarifications and revelations at different times according to our own understanding. So, let me stop here for a minute and just open it up to questions for a little bit, because I also want to get to just a little bit of practice and a little bit of zikr before we stop. But in the description of the course and in my own thinking, I wanted to always have some teaching, always have some sohbet, which means a kind of open back and forth discussion, and also a little bit of zikr. Can't live without zikr. Gotta have it. So, does anybody have any questions at this point? Or anything to say? Yes?
Yes, I wonder, that was very important what you told about the fear of Allah. And I would like to know more about this word.
Taqwa.
Ooh.
Yes. Taqwa is an Arabic word. And, the problem with Arabic words is that they don't translate well into any language that I know of. Because I'll give you an example. There's a book called Lane's Lexicon of the Arabic Language. A lexicon is a kind of a dictionary that also just explains the origins of the word and the roots and the different ways it's used. Well, the one for the Lane's Lexicon for the Arabic language is 13 volumes big, like this, okay? Because the words are, each word is like a poem all in itself. They all have 11 different forms, like I mentioned the word salam, salim, aslam, muslim, salama. They all have all these different forms, and so they take on nuances of meaning. So when I say that they were wrong to translate the word taqwa as fear, I'm a little bit wrong, okay? Because somewhere in that explanation of what taqwa means, fear is probably there, okay? But what happens is that people get stuck on a translation, okay? So taqwa, the way I like to think of it, is if it is fear, it's the fear that comes out of love and awe. Okay? So when we say, we can think of Allah as being so all-encompassing that it makes us shake, because it's so wonderful and it's so terrible at the same time. You know what I mean? So when we approach, but we have to approach, okay? We approach in ways that are the word that comes to my mind is approved, but that's not what I mean. We approach God in Islam in ways that are customary, okay? And those come from our observations of the Prophet Muhammad, okay? He is, like I say, he's the exemplar, okay? He gives us the example of how to work with God, okay? And so, although we have the taqwa, we have the awe, we're inspired by how awed we are by this relationship with the divine being, excuse me, that it almost would keep us ever from even moving, okay, just frozen in our steps. But we have an instruction booklet, and we have a guide, and we can use them to use our awe in a way that will increase our connection with the divine rather than push us away. Is that that's what you wanted? Okay.
Maybe
Yeah.
what I would like to hear also is if it's possible, surrounding of meanings of this word, like you did it for salam, salama, salim.
Oh, yes. Well, I'm not as familiar with all of those when it comes to taqwa as I am with salam. So I can say we're talking about awe, we're talking about fear, we're talking about inspiration, we're talking about all-encompassing love, like that. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Well, let me just, before we start doing a practice, let me just say that my intention is to go more into it's called the seer, the biography of the Prophet Muhammad in these classes. But I also want to say that we're also learning about the pillars. And next month, the class next month, will be very close to the beginning of Ramadan. So the next month, I'm probably going to concentrate more on the inner meanings of Ramadan than I will continue with the biography of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be on him. Because there's always a small group of people at the Abode who like to do Ramadan together. And if we get to do that, that would be nice. But it's also important to understand what Ramadan really is, what we're really doing in Ramadan, which is the same thing as understanding what all of the 5 pillars of Islam. What is Salat, the prayer? What is Ramadan? What is charity? What is the Hajj, the pilgrimage to the Kaaba in Mecca? And what is the statement of faith, which is the first pillar? The kalima, la ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah. So we'll be going into all of that in the coming months. But next month we'll go straight to Ramadan because Ramadan is happening. And it'd be nice to understand it at the time. So before we start a practice, is there anything else anybody wants to ask or say or, complain about? Anything? This is being recorded, so if you complain, I'll know forever. Okay. Well, let's start out with that first zikr. I know we have some new people in the group, so I'll just give a very short explanation of what zikr is and what these words mean. This zikr means remembrance. And the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said that there is a polish for every substance, and that the polish for the heart is zikrullah, which means remembering God, remembering Allah. Why do we want to polish our heart? Well, we want to polish our heart because through life, we go through life and we pick up all kinds of impressions. You know, that's not my fault, it's not your fault, we're people. People pick up impressions. We're like impression magnets. We can't avoid it. It just happens. We just can stand there, you know, like in the middle of the woods and get an impression, okay? Some are good, some are okay, you know? Some are not so good, you know, like, why did my friend in the 3rd grade leave when I liked him the best of everybody in the whole world? You know, that kind of stuff. Those impressions stay with us all our lives, and they leave what's called in Sufism, naqsh, which means a mark. They leave a mark on our hearts, whether we know it or not. They leave a mark, okay? When we polish, when we do zikrullah, when we do this remembrance of God in this way, we polish our hearts. We polish the naqsh. We polish away all of those impurities and impressions and things which we have gathered all of our lives, and the heart becomes a reflective surface that reflects the divine guidance which is coming into us. So we become, another way that it was put is that it softens the heart, okay? And that when our heart is soft, it's more receptive. It's more able to take in the guidance and the knowledge of how much God loves us, okay? So the words to this zikr are La ilaha illallah, okay, which means there is no God but God. All right? I know you'll hear lots of other translations, and they're all fine as far as I'm concerned. This is the only real translation, and it's the only one we'll use in this class. There is no God but God. Okay? It's a little bit esoteric, and it's kind of paradoxical, but that's okay. Sufism is paradoxical. Okay, so the way we do this is we start the heart center that's in the left breast, okay, is where we start. And then we make a motion with our bodies like this. And the way Pirzia describes it is, you make a motion so that your forehead is facing this knee, then this knee, and then up to the right, like this. Okay? So some of you know this already, but I'm doing this for the people who are new. Okay, so let's just practice that once with the phrase La ilaha. So that's La ilaha. Okay, let's do that again. La ilaha. Okay? And the next part of the phrase is illa Allah, which means but God. Okay, la ilaha means there is no God, and then illallah means but God. So on the illah, you bring your concentration down into the heart in the center of your chest, okay? And you go illah, and lift your head up, Allah, like this, and then back towards the left center in the chest, and go hu. Okay? So the whole phrase is La ilaha illallah hu. And hu is kind of like om. It's a universal sound. It's also the masculine pronoun in Arabic, means he. So La ilaha illallah hu could be translated as there is no God but God, he, or or hu sound. So I'll do it a couple times. Please join in when you are ready, and we'll do it out loud at this point. So it's La ilaha illallah Breathing in, La ilaha. Breathing out, illahu. الفاتحة. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وبارك وسلم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. صدق الله العظيم. سبحان الله وبحمده. سبحان الله العظيم. استغفر الله ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. له الملك وله الحمد وهو على كل شيء قدير. Thank you so much for coming, everybody.
You're welcome. Thank
Second
you.
Monday in June, we'll have another class, and we'll talk a lot about Ramadan and the inner meanings